Alrighty, we are recording.
Alrighty. You want to do our intro, Pat?
Sure. Welcome to the Create and Hang with me, Patrick, and special guest Nick.
Hi,
Uh,
guys.
yeah, he's gonna be here. I just turned on the music. he's
Yeah,
gonna
that's fine.
he's gonna be here to talk and hang with me as I go more into this OBS program, which he also has just downloaded. So we'll have some fun back and forth today, and
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
yeah, I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, we're just kind of trying the different format out. I'm usually airing at 10 o'clock on Fridays these days. So yeah, you can come check me out and try to develop this Harry Potter RPG I've been working on. But that's a whole other story. So
How is that going?
it's moving along. It's just right now we're kind of in a very uninteresting spot because I'm doing the statistics for the die rolls.
Oh, that doesn't sound
Um,
fun.
it is for me, but I'm sure it's very boring to watch. So
Fair.
I'm trying to do a little bit in my spare time just to get past it. But I wanted to ask you, Pat. I wanted to ask, like, how did you find out about OpenTunes?
So it was funny because I was online. I've been taking some extra courses just to go through my skills and such. Download some tutorials on different programs just to see what other things have to be offered. And while I was looking around for things on Adobe Animate, I saw someone mention OpenTunes, and I was just like, I've never heard of that one. So I decided, like, hey, let me try to see what that's about. And the more research I did, the more I realized I'm like, oh, this is an open source, super good animation program that the reason why more people don't use is because it's scary looking.
Yeah. I hear that.
And yeah, and so I was like, wait, let me try that. I like scary things. Uh,
Yeah, I actually remember, and I didn't realize this until I caught up with you at some point. But I remember downloading a very early version of this when it just dropped online, and they hadn't translated everything over from Japanese yet.
yeah, that could
Um,
be. That probably didn't
yeah,
help with the
no,
difficult
not at
setup.
all. So for those who don't know, OpenTunes was a piece of software originally used by Studio Ghibli. They made
Back
that's
when it
right,
was,
yeah, Pat.
yeah, it was when it was still called toonz. It was a program that they used,
Okay.
and then they brought it open source. Not sure why. I have to actually look more into the history of the whole program, but it's cool. I enjoy it.
No, for sure. And this is a much more digestible version. I remember just trying to mess around with it, and I think even the layout got a little bit of an overhaul. I seem to recall there being a lot more windows and dials and widgets and gizmos and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I downloaded it recently just to give it a shot again, and like you said, it is a little intimidating because it looks like there's a lot of stuff here, but it does work very well.
I think the thing I had the most trouble with, and I realized that you can change it over here, but I've now gotten used to it, is the way they set up layers and
Yeah.
frames, where the frames are actually going down and the layers are going to side, and that was just like a complete like, why is it this way? The other thing that I also had trouble with is the levels over here.
Oh, okay.
Have you played around with it enough to play around with
I
levels?
I haven't actually.
So,
Um, but yeah, tell me about it. What's up?
so the levels are actually ways to adjust the colors on your frames and your layers, and so each layer has a different group of different palette on it, and it makes it really easy for me to be like, okay, I'm going to go to this layer and I want all of her to be red now, or all this to be red, so I can go in and just be like, boom, red, and it will change that for you. You can also use it to change. Let's go into here. You can also use it, I believe, to add some. Yeah, you can add textures and do things like
Oh boy.
all these different fun jazz things. Change just the way that the.
Are those railroad tracks? Did I see railroad?
I did see
yeah.
railroad tracks, but
Railroad tracks.
unfortunately, you can't really just switch it to vector. You have to actually start working in vector because they're vector
Oh,
lines,
yeah. Got
and
it.
these are not vector lines. But it was really cool to play around with this, especially since usually a lot of times when I work in these kind of programs, one of the biggest issues I have is line work because in things like Adobe Animate, you have to spend like so much time going in, making sure that there's no holes in anything, and you do get a lot of crispness in the animation, but almost in a way to make the lines look a bit bulkier a lot of the time. And Photoshop, when the lines are a bit blurry, they don't fill in all the way. But in here, if I wanted to just go in and let's get I still have to find everything, paint bucket. Let's say I wanted the paint bucket, I could insert a new palette, so new style. They're called styles in the palette, and change the color to, let's say, well, her hair is blonde, so let me change it to blonde. And I can go in and just click it, and it will fill in.
I apologize for the motorcycles in the background.
It's not okay. How dare.
I know. How dare I?
And like, there's still some points where I need to fill in just because there's blocks off there, but like it fills in fairly neatly, which is really nice.
Nice. So how long have you been working on this segment particularly?
I mean, this segment, how long have we been doing these back and forths? So this segment I'm only on frame 2 right now. I didn't get a chance to go back into it because I've been busy this week with different things, including a little cartoon called She-Ra.
Yes, we can have a conversation about that in a little bit.
I will do that very much so. That show was really good and had a really good ending. But let's delete. Oh, also I can delete the style. Oop, that's delete styles only. Whoops. Yeah, let me get.
Dun dun dun.
So is it
and the
red?
raid begins.
Here's the real question: is it red now, or is it? If I move it, yeah, it is red. How do I delete that? Let's see if I can just delete all of that. Let's see. Undo. There we go. Okay, so let me try to delete again. Delete styles, lines, and areas. Okay, there we go. Okay, that's how you do it. Interesting. So yeah, now I haven't been working on this much. I worked on it a little bit just to get the initial run cycle, which, as I can show, is just this. Oop. Just the initial run cycle, so that I wouldn't need to be doing the whole getting all the particular bits.
You got the rough in, basically.
I got the rough in, and now it's time to do the cleanup. Which again, I really like this program for a lot. Like, honestly, like it gets really nice line work in, which I discussed a bunch last time because I was just gushing about it. I was like, oh my god, I love it so much, which I did, and I still do.
That's all right. So who is this? Did you talk about this character particularly? I didn't get a chance to go through your entire create and hang last time.
Yes, I did talk. I did talk about them a bit. This is my character from a D&D campaign that I've been in for. I said like 3 years last time. I realized it's actually more close to 7. So you know.
Oh geez.
I was like perpetually a certain amount of time, but yeah, I've been playing this character for a while now in different games. So one game, I played her, and she was a first edition paladin, and then the second game, which is a sequel.
The comments make so much more sense now. So, so since I'm one of the moderators for the channel, you know, we see all the activity that goes on, and at first, someone had made like a weird comment about like holy sneakers or something. And YouTube thought it was like someone just like being really random, so it removed their comments. I took a closer look. I'm like, wait, and then they had another comment that said something like Paladin. I'm like, oh, I bet Pat's talking about D&D. That doesn't look like that doesn't look like a troll comment. So I unblocked them.
Yeah, that was actually one of my friends from a different game. I told them that I was live streaming, and they decided to hop on.
Cool.
And talk about it. And at that moment, the comment that I did with the sneakers, she wears light up sneakers. So this is a future, like she's now in the future because sequel and a lot of weird things happen in D&D. But so she wears light up sneakers just because she's a goofball. And I was talking about like, oh, that'll be cool to do with the sneakers, is have when one foot hits the ground, it light up and do things like that. So I was just having fun talking about that.
Would they flash in the presence of evil?
No, they do not. Me and my friend, so it's Chase actually, who works at the DAE. He runs the second game that she's been in. And so when she was transferred to the future, we didn't want to just go through the basic ideas of good and evil, just because it's kind of boring, and a lot of things in like first edition are very limited in how they think good and evil and like how neutral works.
That's right. I forgot you're running first edition.
Well, she's from first edition. She's now in Starfinder. But when we took a look at it, we were trying to figure out, okay, well, what does a paladin? One of her most iconic things is how she detected evil by just being like, detect evil, and she would go over the top with it because she grew up watching plays about paladins, and so she thought that's how all paladins are supposed to act. Yeah, big nerd. But what happens is we were trying to figure out what's the best way of her to be detecting like evil or things like that in a world that evil doesn't necessarily exist in the same way. And the way that we came up with it is because she's also like a theater nerd, we decided that every character, instead of detecting good and evil, she detects their theme song. and so whenever someone makes a new character in the game, Chase always asks, like, okay, so what's the character's theme song? And they're very confused until they meet my character, like, oh, I get it.
Gotcha.
It's a fun little...
One thing that I'm noticing, though, is I do see you occasionally, like, drawing in lines and then hitting undo. Is it just easier to, like, undo and redraw the line than erasing it, I imagine? Because I'm just, like, trying to, like, see what your thought process is here.
This is a process that I've learned from just a bunch of, like, whenever I'm animating or drawing a lot of things, I don't just animate, I also do a lot of drawings. One thing I find is that you want to go with big lines because they get a lot smoother. They have there's more energy to the big lines. They're smoother. You feel big lines more. And so one thing that you learn is that you want to have confident line work. And in order to do confident line work, you have to just kind of go for it. And when it doesn't work, you just undo and you just keep doing it until you get it.
Gotcha.
And that's just what I've been working on for years of how to do it. Sometimes I will go in and erase if I like the line, but I just did a little bit too much. Like this guy, I'll actually, or if I moved on and I go back and be like, oh, no, wait, that's ugly.
Gotcha.
But most of the time I will do things like undo to just so I can get a nice big line in like that.
All right, cool.
And again, it just makes it look nicer, and that's how you see a lot of... It's a case a lot in digital art. I mean, obviously you can't do there's no undo button in regular art, but it is a case a lot in digital art that people have learned. It's like, okay, I need, especially when you're working on like a tablet like this, where you really don't have as much like precision, you need to really be willing to just be like, go for it and then just undo it.
Yeah, I imagine a Cintiq would make that like way easier, but because there's always like I've used a tablet mostly for 3D sculpting, not so much for 2D drawing, but I can imagine like when you need, like, at least like with 3D sculpting in my experience, it's a little bit, there's not as much as a disassociation between like where you're looking and where you're touching on the pad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That still like throws me for a loop, though I don't think it's nearly as bad for 3D stuff.
No, it is not. Oh, I was like, where's her hand? You usually work in 3D, don't you?
Typically, yeah. Occasionally, I'll like experiment with 2D, but to be honest, my drawing skills are not the best.
Yeah, I retook a drawing course recently just to go back into drawing a bit. I've always been, I think myself as a decent drawer a lot of the time. I'm very good at matching styles in a lot of cases, but I wanted to really go in and push my work a bit more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I just had an issue with her. How many?
No, all good. It'd be very awkward to have her hand like start to come back, and then it alternates between 4 and 3 fingers.
Exactly. So what happens is, I cut.
Oh no, did we juke when we should have swayed?
Yeah, a little bit.
Gotcha.
I work in both, like, as you know, I do 3D and 2D work, and I like both of them. In fact, maybe the next live, after I finish this project, if I like, I'll probably just do a 3D one next, just because it's fun and nice, and I do enjoy it. Especially like rigging, characters.
Yes, that lovely.
It's not
lovely process.
It's not the best. It's not the most fun process in the world. It's just very tedious.
Yeah, it is.
It's not hard. One of the kids I taught, though, he got like he came back one time and was just like, hey, here's this thing I rigged, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I taught you rigging very basically, but I'm very impressed that you went out, modeled your own thing, and then came back with modeled your own. He modeled his own thing based on a 2D character. He modeled his own thing and then rigged it, and then came back and showed me. I was like, oh, this is great. And then I taught him about facial rigging afterwards because he was interested in more rigging stuff. And I was like, okay, this is how we can do faces and things like that instead of needing to do a bone for each eyelash or mouth. I'm like, let's make this a bit easier for you.
Yeah, all good. You know, it's definitely really interesting to see how like sometimes a student will, you know, through no fault their own, you teach them the basics and they get super excited, so then they like do a bunch of stuff and you're like, I'm super impressed you did that, but there's like 2 tools that would have made your life so much easier. I was saving them.
You could talk to me and I will tell you. I mean,
but no, it's good to see the enthusiasm. I'd rather see that.
Who am I to kid? I was that kid in my first 3D modeling class that I took. Maybe it was the second. Like we were doing 3D modeling, and I was always the kid who would jump ahead and do all the stuff. And then it was funny for our final project. They were like, "Okay, what do you want to do for your final project?" And it wasn't so much as like, hey, you get to choose your own thing. It was just like, hey, build a project and do it. And I was that kid who, in the 3D modeling class, decided to make an entire rig the first time and just like go with it. It worked. It came out pretty okay. I looked up how to rig. I figured it all out. It wasn't my best rig, and I look back and I'm like, oh, I would never rig like that again.
you kind of cringe at it, like.
It also didn't help that the program that it was in was not probably the best program for animation. It was 3ds Max, which is more for like.
Yeah, that I think. I want to say that 3ds Max definitely leans more toward architecture. I think. Yeah,
that was.
I've never actually touched the program myself.
It's a good program. Like, I like the program a lot, but I mean, I haven't used it in years. It's not free, so thus I don't use it. Yeah, right now I'm a Blender kid.
Oh yeah, you and me both.
Yeah, Blender and OpenToonz now. Yeah, I'd still use Photoshop and all those fun tools because Photoshop and Illustrator are just really good. And even though I love all the open source ones that we use, it's just sometimes when I'm doing my own things, like, okay, I know where these tools are a bit more better.
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing because, like, I have nothing against Adobe. Like, they do make very good products. Like, that's not in question.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just, you know, depending on your situation, you know, you don't have $50 a month to spend, which I think now they boosted up to 65 or something. So, you know,
yeah,
yeah, you know, depending on where you're at, you may, you know, need to get your career going and hold off a little bit until you can, you know, get to that spot. But, you know, the open source tools do work great. The downside is that they don't have that dedicated support. So, like, they don't have as many frequent updates. Some of the tools might work a little wonky sometimes. And, you know, sometimes there might be a crash or something. So there's a little bit of a trade-off for sure. But, you know, if you can get the Adobe products, great. But this is one of the reasons we're using the open source one is because they're free, they're easily accessible. You know, parents and students don't have to shell out extra cash for taking a class.
Oh, and yeah, no, and that makes complete sense. And it's actually funny because the reason, again, the other thing, when I was looking up different animation programs, because I don't think Adobe Animate's one of the better ones. It's based off of Flash, and there's a lot of issues with Flash that just never got resolved and just kind of, what's the word? They were parented over to
fell by the wayside. It's definitely weird because when I was in college, which was many centuries ago by this point,
you're old.
Yeah, I know, I'm old.
I'm 26 now. It's weird.
What was that?
I'm 26 now. It's weird.
I forgot. Wait till you hit 30, Pat.
I'd rather not. I'm just gonna, you know, not hit 30.
Eternally young forever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll be sitting here on my porch just waiting for you.
Sheila's turning 30 next year, and I just keep making fun of her that she is. I'm like, haha, you're old.
Well, I have a sister who's a year and a half older than me, so she hit that benchmark for first. So I was like, haha. She's like, you're not that far behind. I was like, oh no.
Shut up.
Yeah, pretty much. But anyway, where was I? We were talking about
open source programs.
That's right. We were talking about Flash.
Yes.
When I was in college, I was still using Flash when it was still like optimized for web. Like it didn't even have it wasn't even it was still like Flash, like CS3. Like this is in the CS era, or was it CS2? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
It's before your time. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm young. Forever.
Forever young. But yeah, it was definitely really weird trying to learn that because there were a bunch of extra tools that were specific for like creating like web pages and whatnot. It was so strange to use.
Yeah, it feels like they've kind of switched. They've kind of separated the two areas out, realizing a lot of people use Flash for animation and just made Animate and then their web design ones now.
Yeah, I can't even remember. Yeah, because now like any web images you need, as long as they're the correct size, you don't really need to like put through Flash. I think the. All right, don't quote me on this, but I seem to recall the main reason for using Flash was so that you could export specific files out for web pages.
Yeah.
That's what I seem to recall, but again, this is many years ago.
Did you even have a computer back then?
Oh, we had laptops that were the size of your book bag.
I actually do remember those laptops.
Actually, I don't even think I did use a laptop, but it was so bulky that I just kept it in the dorm and like just take it with me when I would go home or something. Oddly enough, where you are is where I went to school.
Yeah, that was a fun little turnaround when I was like, oh yeah, I'm moving to Indiana. And you're like, I went there back in my day.
Back in my day. Yeah, they still have all the cornfields out there.
Yes, those don't change.
Mm-hmm.
The land is very flat here. It's just a solid flatness. I came and I was like, wow, I can see to the rest of the land.
Yeah, I'm surprised you can't see to the coast from where you are.
At this point, yeah, seriously.
You know what? I'm sorry. It's the New York buildings are blocking the view. I'm sorry.
That's really what it is. I looked out and the Empire State Building was there. And I was like, dang it.
Dang it. Yeah, just for reference, the DAE is in Manhattan, and Pat was working with us directly for a while, but then he went and moved out to Indiana, the trader, and then he came back for online stuff. So
when did the DAE move to Manhattan?
I mean, in the New York area. That's what I meant.
New York isn't Manhattan, and a lot of people will argue that.
Shush, I'm old and I can't remember stuff.
Mind you, the best part of New York is the city, but people will argue.
True.
You old man.
You know what? I'm thinking versus local space versus world space, so forgive me on that one.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, no, I'm the first DA instructor out of state. Like,
I think that's
out
correct.
Of state.
I want to say so. You've broken yet another record, you youngster.
Yep. Remember when I worked there for like 6 months, and you thought I was there for like 2 years?
I don't remember. I'm sure we had a conversation.
That's one of my favorite moments with you. Is all of a sudden you were like, hey Pat, so you've been working here for like 2 years, right? And I'm like, Nick, I've been here 6 months. And you're like, oh, okay. Would you take this class? I'm like, yeah, I'll take that class, Nick.
All right, cool.
I don't like that. Okay, I'm gonna delete that. Okay, I don't like how that game.
All right, so it looks like we're working on the sneaks.
Yeah, sneaks are tough. Shoes are weird, and I mentioned this last time, but like feet are actually really weird to draw.
Oh, they're super weird.
Just because, and you like the two things that people usually think about as the one thing that people usually think about as really hard to draw is hands, which is true. They are hard to draw because there's so many bits to them, but feet are almost so simple that you don't think about them enough, and because you don't think about them enough, they never look good.
I know, it's very rarely that you will just stare at a character's feet.
Exactly.
You know, so you're just kind of like, oh yeah, it's a foot, but we know when it's wrong, and that's the problem.
Exactly. That stupid survival instinct where we know that things are weird.
I know, and that blasted Uncanny Valley, it really knocks you over. Have you talked about that?
The Uncanny Valley? No.
Oh, it's worth mentioning. I think I've talked about it a little bit in like so one of the things that I do after hours is that I play video games and I try to analyze them for like game mechanics and like technical stuff and that kind of whatnot.
Yeah, you've been playing Space Dark Souls. I mean Star Wars, right?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I just finished it. And I started. I just finished Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and I decided to go back in time for the next video game, and I resurrected my old Xbox.
Ooh.
And I'm playing Advent Rising right now.
Oh, that'd be cool. That should be fun.
Yeah, it's definitely very weird because the console still thinks it's 2001.
I mean, I wish I was in 2000. Oh, no, I don't wish I was in 2001 now. But
No, a lot of Britney Spears music in the 2000s. I seem to
hey,
recall.
hey, you leave Britney alone.
I know. I'm kidding.
Leave Britney alone. She's cool. I love Britney.
I actually don't know too much about it, but there was a lot of I'm trying to remember what the song was. No, there's a lot of Genie in the Bottles, I think, during that time period. I seem to recall. But yeah, I resurrected my old Xbox and I got that powered up, and I talked about the Uncanny Valley because the characters are very stylized. And I think the reason they did that was so that it would kind of like let your sense of disbelief grow a little bit more, because they did not have the technology to do super realistic stuff at that point.
Nope.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. And
even now, when they go a bit too close, it sometimes gets a bit weird.
Yeah, so I guess we should explain what the Uncanny Valley is for those who may or may not know. So essentially, the Uncanny Valley is when you are approaching a realistic human face, but it's not quite right. So if you go on the bottom end of the spectrum where you get something that's completely cartoony, like trying to think of like if you look at any cartoon for like I don't know,
She-Ra.
like say again?
Like She-Ra.
Like She-Ra, right? Like we know it's a cartoon face. We know that it's resembling a humanoid, but we know it's not real. Like that's pretty straightforward.
Actually, the best example is WALL-E. Like WALL-E, who is this super cute robot, because it also happens in robots a lot.
True. Yeah, because basically you recognize faces very easly as a person. And then at the opposite end of the spectrum, where you have something that's super realistic, you've got like I'm trying to think of what that movie was with the cyborg. I can't remember.
That movie with the cyborg, you really narrowed it down, Nick.
Shush. In my old brain, I have like Ex Machina, like
no,
like
Ex
like
Machina was really cool. Wait, maybe I'm thinking of a different Ex Machina.
Maybe, but in any event, the point I'm trying to make is when you have a very like you cannot tell it's a fake face, like it's perfect. And then somewhere in the middle of all of that junk is you have something that is not either of those things, and it creeps us out because our face is telling us this thing is trying to look like a person, but it's just not right. Yeah. Either, the distance between the eyes is wrong, or the texture isn't right, or the mouth isn't moving correctly. It could be any number of factors, and sometimes this is really hard to like pin down about what's wrong, even though it looks all technically correct. I'm actually going to poke a little bit at your Star Wars movies for a second, Pat, if that's okay.
Hey, look, they poked a bit at my Star Wars movies when they made Rise of Skywalker, so
Oh, yeah,
it's all game here.
I've hit a sensitive topic.
You have.
I'm sorry. But there are a couple like scenes where they have like digital doubles, and they look correct, but the motion's not quite right. So it does look Tarkin. A little off. Yeah, yep, Tarkin's the big one. They actually did that with Clue from I'm loading. Hold on. Yes, from Tron. That's the one. From the new Tron.
Tron. That one came out pretty okay, but the eyes were the weird thing. The eyes were too white. They didn't have the right shadows on it.
I don't know. Like for me, it was the motion. Something about the motion was off. But the hair looked pretty good. Like that was that Jeff Bridges or Beau Bridges? I think it was Jeff.
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges. Thank you. But yeah, he looked pretty good. It's just something wasn't quite right. So yeah, go check out oh god, I have to load again. Tron. Go check out Tron when you have 2 seconds.
Or don't, just watch the original Tron. Yeah.
I actually still haven't watched the original Tron. You'd think I would have crossed that off my list as like a computer graphics sort of fella.
Tron is weird. It's not the best movie, and
I'm sure it is, but it's at a bar. It was if I remember. Actually, I'm gonna look at my visual effects history book over here.
Wait a second. I'm gonna use a different feature. 1 second.
Go ahead.
No, as you're doing this, I'm just because I vaguely remember I was able to. Yes, that's. So this is a feature that I really like.
Oh, with the panning and the
I can
tilting of the screen.
I can tilt the screen. I know you can do it in other programs, but I really like just that it's a tool in this program, like right here, which is useful because my issue with the shoe was that I'm drawing it sideways, and I'm not used to drawing shoes sideways. There we go. That's looking better.
But the shoes, Patrick.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to have weird shoes.
I'm just looking for. So I have a book called "A Special Effects: The History and Technique." It is a fascinating book, and it basically talks about visual effects throughout the years, and it actually sets the stage for a lot of computer graphics technology that we have today. And I remember there was a specific section in here somewhere involving Tron, and I want to make sure I get the quote correct about it because I want to say it was the very first film to utilize raster graphics, but I don't remember if that's
sounds about
100%
right.
accurate.
Well, if we're talking about movies that created giant milestones and talking about Star Wars, if we didn't have Jar Jar Binks, we would not have Gollum.
Oh, that's very true. Yeah. I mean, I know Jar Jar Binks is as a character, that's a whole other topic. But in terms of like a CG character, like he's pretty darn good.
He's as good as you probably could have gotten at the time. He's still weird and feels a little out of place even then, when you put that into context. The pod racing scene looks fantastic. You can't tell.
Oh yeah, the pod racing scene is awesome, and then of course you've got the Darth Maul fight scene, which you just can't beat that with the music.
No.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a good fight, and I just saw some Dave Filoni, the guy who works on Mandalorian and Clone Wars.
I haven't seen Mandalorian yet.
Oh, you should. It's good. That is really good. He did a conversation because he was talking about like how about that fight scene. How people a lot of times make fun of it because it's like super choreographed and things like that. But But there's a lot of cool meaning in that and why it's called the Duel of the Fates and things like that. That really, when he broke it down, it was just like, oh, this is cool. Because basically that like as he said, like that fight, the good guys lose that fight. Like they win the fight, but they lost the fight because Qui-Gon died. And the reason why that's bad is because Qui-Gon could have raised Anakin way better than Obi-Wan could have.
Yes. Oh, and I found the quote for Tron. Tron in 1982. Oh man, that was 7 years before I was born. Was the first major motion picture to include fully realized sequences of computer-generated animation.
Fun.
I know, and I'm looking at a picture of it, and oh boy, these graphics have not held up well. But you know what? That's okay.
You know what graphics do held up well? Jurassic Park.
Surprisingly, yes. That's actually a really interesting topic in terms of animation.
Oh, really? I don't know this.
Yes, I know, right? I'm preaching to the choir on this point. But there's a number of reasons like why that movie did so well.
Yeah.
And part of it was, I don't want to steal too much, but basically, there were they had actual reference lighting because they had like cutouts of the T-Rex to reference with the lighting. They were very careful about the type of lighting they had, so that it was very easily matched. And when it came time to like render skin, rendering scales is not nearly as hard as human skin because human skin is translucent. It lets light through. So that is a very technically hard thing to do back in when did that come out? 1987? 97?
No, 93. Came out a year before I was
really
born. Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow, we're dating ourselves, Pat.
Yeah, a little bit. What's it called? Actually, fun fact about like the lighting thing. Lighting is also usually the killer of a lot of these.
True.
Graphic effects.
But in the case of T-Rex, because it was shot at night, the specular highlights didn't have to be super good because it was meant to be super shiny because of the rain.
Yeah.
So that was something else that came into play. And then I had another thought, but they were very meticulous about what they did.
But you know what's interesting? So the reason why I bring this up though, like with the lighting and things like that, is because not just with like how lighting works, but there's also this really cool thing that you see a lot of times in visual effects where the goal is to actually make it look a little bit more fake, and the reason why is remember, so you know the Aladdin movie that came out recently, right? the live action one that I don't
I
really watch.
yes, I'm aware of it, but I did not see it.
Neither did I. But something interesting is when you watch the first clip, when you watch the first trailer and the genie shows up, he's very weird looking, and you really can't place your finger on why. And then what they did in the later ones is he's just as weird looking, but the way they rendered him differently is they made it look like Will Smith was wearing just full body paint makeup instead of just making him like this over the top being, like with like transition. They actively
they grounded it too realistically.
So what happens is they ended up having to kind of give it the look of like that extra fakeness a little bit, making it look like it's this paint and giving that kind of way, just because that lets you accept it a bit more than if it was this actually real thing. So sometimes you actually have to play around with that fakeness.
Oh, I see. Okay, so they actually made it look a little bit faker instead of trying to prove he was a genie. Okay, interesting.
Exactly. And that way we accepted that because it's just a part of our eyes want to accept a lot of things. We that's why animation is even a thing, is because our eyes want to accept that this is movement when it's actually just in this case 17 pictures. So like we want to accept that that's actually a character moving and not just 17 pictures just going back and forth.
You know what, speaking of animation though, so I know we talked about open toonz, like in the way they had, so most animation programs for 2D have the timeline going from left to right, and this one goes from top to bottom. It just occurred to me, I've actually seen that before, and I think it was called a dope sheet. And this is actually, so it actually resembles that a little bit more. I'm trying to find it. I just pulled the Animator Survival Guide.
When you think about with a lot of animation, it's like like animation is just flipping. That's what it is in a lot of the cases. And normally you probably flip from bottom to top, but like if you think about just like how a film strip works, it goes top to bottom, not left to right.
Oh yeah, and the other part of that. So I'm actually looking at in my my book over here. So originally this is called the official name for it is the X sheet, also called the dope sheet. So we were both correct there. But the other reason it was top to bottom, just like you said, was because they used to draw this on cellophane. So they have to layer the layers literally in the right order.
Yep.
So everything was correct. So good memory there, Pat.
Well, I just also talk about this a bunch. Why is this? Oh, that's because it's. Whoops, I made a mistake. I did this on twos.
So, what? Yeah. Patrick, you made a mistake?
I know, it happens rarely.
So disappointed.
Yeah, I know. Just fire me now. But give me a second. Let me create a new.
Yeah, no problem.
Create blank drawing. There we go. That works.
All right, cool.
There we go. What was I thinking? What was I talking about?
I don't know.
With toonz, I also thought about this. You know how we were talking about the open source thing. Yeah, the other one I was looking into was shoot, what is it called?
Now you have to load.
Yeah, seriously, I am loading right now. But unfortunately, you see my face when I'm loading now. I'm hideous.
I know. I get to be the voice in the machine and not be seen.
Exactly.
It's all right. You can check out my ugly mug when I stream.
Exactly, which I do recommend.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What's it called? Toon Boom. Not Toon Boom. I don't remember. It basically is just like a $3,000 program. I'm like, I can't afford that. I can barely afford this, and this is free.
$3,000?
It wasn't $3,000, but it was like something around like $1,000.
It was a hunk of change.
Yeah,
okay.
It was a hunk of change. That's for sure.
I'm gonna see if I can look it up on my end. It was Toon something.
Maybe it's Toon something. I don't know. It's something. It's one that you see a lot around.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
You're gonna say it. I'm gonna be like, yes.
No, it's not Toon Boom, is it?
Maybe it's Toon Boom. I don't think it's Toon Boom because that was the one I.
There was another one. I had a student who was just learning 3D, and she was traditionally a 2D artist. And she told me something about something called TV Paint.
TV Paint, that's it.
Ah, there it is.
That one's expensive.
I heard it works very well though.
It does. Like, there's a reason why it's expensive. It's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's no bang against anyone who can afford the more professional and like updated tools. Like if you can do it, great. But if you can't, that's okay too.
Yeah, you can still do
use what
things.
you can.
Yeah. One of the things I always find the most trouble with is the curve of the nose into the forehead. It's just my least favorite bit to draw. I don't know why. It just is.
The sideburns there?
No, not the sideburns. Because she's standing up now. The curve of the nose.
Sorry, I was looking at the red layer there.
Yeah, no, the lead layer is done. Like that is a finished drawing until I decide I want to fix it. Until I decide I want to do more to it. But no, yeah, I find that the nose curve, I always do it too flat, and it always.
What is the name for that? It's like, hold on. Area of
the bridge
above nose. There's like a very. Oh yeah. So that area, like right between your eyebrows, just above the nose, apparently it's called the glabella.
The glabella. Well, the glabella keeps me up at night.
Darn you, glabella!
Curse you, glabella!
I think we just found our new D&D villain.
Glabella!
Glabella!
Sounds like a bard.
Ooh, an evil bard. Is that rare, or I don't know? It seems like it is.
I feel like every bard is secretly evil, just for the drama of it. Just for the drama.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm trying to think though. Glabella. Yeah, it definitely has like well, it's got a tune to it, so that does make sense.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, you can get a full song dance going with that name.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be like Glabella, she haunts you in the night. Sort of a weird terror song. I don't know why I went kind of dark with that one. Let's bring it back.
Yeah, what the heck, Nick? You're making this stream much darker.
All right, to be fair, my party just started finding themselves that there are a bunch of little evil creatures hiding amongst their ranks, so they're a little on the paranoid side right now. So that's kind of where my brain's at.
Oh yeah, how are they doing there?
They're doing pretty good. They actually Bart went home to his family, and he's trying to figure out what's going on, and there's a bunch of devils running around and causing some havoc.
Oh,
so it's good fun time.
That's always the case, isn't it?
Yes.
That's getting better. So yeah. So what have you been up to lately, Nick? What have you been watching?
Oh, I haven't been watching much lately. Like I said, I told you before we started, I gave up my Netflix subscription. I did enjoy Netflix, but it's just the shows that I really like wanted to see, like there weren't a ton. It seems like for every like good show that's on there, we get like 10 ones that are just kind of like weird or not great.
So I'm gonna take that as you haven't watched Tiger King.
No, I haven't, and I've been told time and time again to watch it. I
can imagine that a couple people at the DA have been telling you to watch that.
I feel like
Rob has watched it already.
And he probably has, and chances are they've made references that I don't fully understand. It's probably just gone over my head.
That's fair.
But I'll get to it at some point. Really, most of my time has been I've been learning programming, which again I told you about earlier, because I have an idea for a not a game per se, but a tool to help make some like 3D dungeons. And I am not the best programmer, and it can be quite a task for me, but we're making progress. So a lot of my time has been going into that.
That's good.
Yeah, so I'm learning a new language. Only it is machine language in this case.
Yeah, Shayla's been learning programming too.
It's for us visual folks, Pat. Wow, that I cannot talk. For us visual folks, Pat, it's like your Crucible basically.
I mean, I know I've learned programming. I know the horrors.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting you've done the VR
I wrote a book
stuff.
and did a VR book. I did a VR class.
Look, we've established that I forget things.
Jeez. How many years have you known me, Nick? 12 at this point?
I was going to say at least 15.
Yeah, like...
way longer than the DAE's been around.
Exactly. Because that makes complete sense.
Oh, of course. Oh, man. You know what? I just see you're drawing on the ear though. Ears are also very weird to draw.
I've just gotten the hang of them, and it's just because I've drawn so many recently.
Yeah, there's sometimes no way around that other than just to draw it a bazillion times.
I also just found that, like, generally the ear shape is just kind of like this, and then you don't need much to get a cartoon ear, which is nice. You just need a little bit of added, like, whatever it takes to just kind of give the idea of a cartoon ear. More realistic.
Yeah, you gotta simulate the weird folds.
Yeah. And there's a lot. It's the worst thing with ears is when I had to model them. I hated modeling ears. I think that is actually my bane. That
modeling, particularly like getting the topology right for ears. The mouth isn't horrible, and the eyes are okay, but yeah, the ears they'll throw you for a loop.
Did my music stop? I haven't heard it in a while.
Oh, you know what? The 16-bit thing is only like 25 minutes or something, so it probably did stop.
Oh, I have restarted it. Yeah,
we've
been talking, so I just didn't notice.
Oh, that's fine. I'm sure our lovely musical, mystical voices will help keep the audience entranced.
Exactly. Hopefully.
Well, fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll have comments telling us otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. What's it called? Finishing up this.
What was I talking about? I can't remember.
Life, universe, everything.
Yes, 42 in towels.
Yes. Good book. Favorite book series.
All 5 of you will get that reference.
Hey, that is a great book series. That's my all-time favorite book series.
How is it that well received? I actually don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty well received.
Okay, cool.
It's known for it's a very well-known book series at this point.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. A lot of people know Hitchhikers.
Look, Patrick, after a day's work, I go home to my man cave, and you won't see me for like a bazillion years, okay? I do not have my pulse or my thumb on the pulse of like what's popular. I don't know.
That's fair. Definitely check out She-Ra, because that was just really fun and gave me such joy as a person, as a human being.
I'm trying to think. I think the last like animated show that I watched, I think it was Dragon Prince. I want to say
Dragon Prince was good. I have some issues with Dragon Prince, but
there are some weird like story notes that are a little like oddly placed.
Dragon Prince has a bit of pacing issues in their 3rd season. It helps that like the 3rd season's definitely not their last season. It felt like that for a while, which is why I had a lot of issues with the 3rd season for a while. But most of my issues with Dragon Prince are just from horror stories on actually working on Dragon Prince that I've seen around. I'm just like,
oh, gotcha.
Yeah. No.
The trenches can be a messy place.
Yes. No, I really liked She-Ra. I thought that one came out so good. Like, I really enjoyed that. And that one's going to be going down for a while as a really important bit of animation.
That just makes it like all the more like impressive that like products like that get done. Granted, like Dragon Prince, I think, No, it was primarily 3D, right?
Dragon Prince was 3D. They did a weird thing in the 1st season with their 3D, and they decided to change that in the later seasons. Thank the Lord.
Okay.
The 1st season was weirdly animated.
I know, like some 2D animated shows will like sub in 3D thing for like mechanical parts because keeping straight lines consistent is a little tough. So I recall that, but it just makes you appreciate 2D animation that much more because everything is drawn. There isn't a computer calculating a building off in the distance or when it changes perspective.
Yeah, and I do both 3D and 2D. I think my heart is more in 2D just because I like the freedom it gives you a lot of the time.
It does give you the freedom, but on the flip side of that, like you got to know how to draw everything. That's like it all comes down to that. So there is some like give and take. Again, you should still know like some basic drawing skills just so you can like frame shots and stuff in 3D, but and like still like work with like 3D forms because I know I'm preaching to the choir on this one, but basically what you're doing when you're drawing is you're taking a 3D shape and you're representing it on a 2D plane. So if you can do that, then it's really easy for you to take a concept drawing and then turn that into 3D and go back and forth. So there's a crossover for sure.
That's why whenever I do I always recommend if you want to do animation to also take some life drawing courses.
Oh yeah, for
It
sure.
really helps get things done. Usually, that's a recommendation that I make people to do, which is it just helps when you gain the whole knowing the shapes of people and how things all come together.
Word.
Yes, exactly. Words are tough.
That's what the kids say,
I
right?
do art. I don't know word things.
And fair enough.
Um.
Yeah, I'll say that's one thing about at least for me. I don't know if this is true for other animators, but my grammar sometimes takes a dive sometimes, particularly when I'm not paying attention.
Yeah.
Just oh man, like I'm pretty sure like my for those who don't know, I'm the director of operations, so I am in charge of communicating with the team. I'm pretty sure on an occasion or two I've sent out a non-coherent email just because the way my weird organizational brain works does not, because what you say in your head does not necessarily transfer to very clear communication when you're delivering that to the team. So
Do you still do the daily
sure
updates?
What's that?
Do you still do the daily updates?
I haven't done an official one. I've been kind of doing it in the general part of Slack. Like I don't know, we're still like getting back onto a regular schedule due to all the stuff. So.
Oh yeah, all the stuff.
All the stuff. So how many frames have we done? I say we, but it's really you. 2. Making progress.
Like honestly, I'm more focused on just drawing with and talking right now. Like if I was doing this just completely silent and being like, I'd probably at least
I'm sure you
6.
get a few more frames in there for sure.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things where because I'm talking, I also like sometimes it's hard to talk and draw at the same time, or at least get the right lines.
You're flexing two muscles at the same time, basically.
Exactly. As we said, words are not my strong suit as it is, and so
me speak good.
I speak good. But yeah, no, it's just one of those things where it's just like, yeah, I'm getting there, but it's just a matter of sometimes you have to play around a little bit with because it's all the different muscles. It's just like sometimes you have to focus a bit more on one than the other.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And again, that's the other thing you don't think about a lot of times when you're animating. It's just like there's so many pictures.
Yeah. Very enthusiastic student I had, and he's like, "I'm gonna draw this at 60 frames a second." I was like, "What?" Like I had a heart attack for him.
Yeah, I'm guessing that didn't actually happen.
I don't recall. I think I fainted and then I never found out what happened.
That's fair.
They didn't want to tell me what happened.
I probably wouldn't want to speak about it either at that moment.
Yeah, I know that you can kind of cheat things a little bit and draw on 2s and 1s, which really quickly for the audience is basically when you if you're drawing on 1s, which Pat, I think that's what you're doing if I'm not mistaken.
So one thing I do a lot, and this is not uncommon, is sometimes you also alternate 1s and 2s. Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse actually did that a bunch, where they had him animated on 2s they had Miles animated on 2s in the beginning of the movie, and then he slowly became animated on 1s toward the end,
Gotcha.
just to really show that he's more competent, like he's becoming a more competent Spider-Man. I'm alternating between 1s and 2s depending on which motion I'm doing. I might not like it and go back, but like if you watch it, I mean, let's do this again.
Did you talk about 1s and 2s in the last stream?
Not.
I don't want to. Oh, okay. So just to get people caught up, for those who may not be familiar, basically when you're animating on 1s, there is roughly a drawing on every frame. Yeah. You're drawing 1 frame per 1 exposure. When you're drawing on 2s, you're drawing 1 frame, but then you're holding it for 2 exposures. So there's 1 drawing for 2 frames. Depending on the type of motion you're doing, you can get away with doing this. Generally, if I'm not mistaken, 2s are a little bit better for slower motion. And 1s, depending on how quickly the thing moves throughout the screen, you can't get away with doing it on 2s. That's primarily what it's used for, but I'm sure there's like tips and tricks where you can switch things around. So Pat said he was alternating between 1s and 2s. And in the case of the Spider-Verse, because Miles was animated on twos, but he was doing roughly the same motion, it made him appear a little bit more jerky and not as fluid, which was definitely a very cool. Like, I would not have called like using the frame rate to tell a character story. That's always like in my brain been like a technical like thing of animation, not necessarily an artistic choice.
I like when the technical aspects bleed into the like technical aspects bleed into the actual animation itself to really give ideas, because when you think about it a lot in movies and things like movies and shows, we already think about like how color and shape affect how we perceive characters, taking it to like how frame rate and how just like how frame rate also can affect the character really was just an interesting choice they made, and I really like the fact that they decided to do that. Also just like styles and stuff, because that was Spider-Verse already played around with style as it was to really help emphasize like the differences between the universe. So one was in black and white, one was an old school kind of cartoon character who looked more 2D than the other ones did. Like one was anime. And so like I do enjoy when they use when they use the technical aspects of animation to help really push a story, because I really think that can be very interesting. Just because even just like how a character is animated can really change how you perceive them. Like if they're animated with high energy, like how fast they move, how much they squash and stretch in certain circumstances, really change how you read the character. Such as like you wouldn't animate Mickey Mouse the same way you animate I don't know, Goku from Dragon Ball Z. Like you wouldn't animate those.
Z.
Good show.
Sorry, I was about to lead us down another tangent, but continue your thought.
No, I mean that is my thought. Like it's well, I mean, okay, there's more to it then, I guess. Because there's also the fact that like style in a show is also helps really figure out like what the show is about. And so there's a lot of really cool shows. Animation is one of like I love animation in all its forms, and so I always enjoy just how stylized you can make some shows, and how even just shows that are animated in similar fashions can look so different or feel different depending on what kind of setting they go for. Things like Samurai Jack are really cool because part because of the story and partially because of the actual animation techniques that they use. And it's always interesting to just see. It's kind of interesting to see the flexes of animators when they animate some of these things, because like there's the Rapunzel animated series that did this really cool like 360 shot at one point that I would love to like just go into and just examine one day, just because it's super fun.
Do I feel a segue coming on there,
Might
Patrick?
be a bit of a segue, but but yeah, no, like there's a lot of different cool, like I mean, there's a lot of cool scenes in animation that just are worth looking at in general, and there's a lot of cool ways that people use not just the shape and style, but also just like the different techniques of animation in different ways to portray different meanings in the characters and such.
100% agreed. It's crazy how you can do some of this stuff.
Yeah, I haven't actually had a chance. I need to. So as I spoke, the last season of She-Ra came out like this week, and I haven't had a chance to go through. Like I've been so busy crying over the story, I haven't looked into the actual animation stuff yet. I really
I believe you're. So we were communicating about when to do the show for this. And I believe your exact text was like, "Yeah, I can do it at that time. I'm done I've recovered from the emotional stress of She-Ra." I was like, "Oh, whoa, what happened?"
A lot happened.
I'm sure I'll watch it at some point.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything about it, but I believe one of the texts I sent to my friends was he was texting me about a game or something, and he was like, "Hey, how's this sound?" And I'm like, I honestly. I'll get back. Like this was the first day it came out. I was like, I'll get back to you tomorrow. I am currently an emotional train wreck because of a cartoon, which was really nice because the last cartoon that really made me feel like that much. I mean, and again, my wife will be the first to tell you I'm a sap. I cry over everything. But the last cartoon that made me that emotionally invested in the characters was the Avatar series. Both of them.
Oh yeah. I'm with you on that one.
Now on Netflix too, if you want to check that out. It's real, but like those are really good series.
I was just gonna say I'm fortunate enough to actually own the whole series, so I'm lucky in that respect.
Same. And one that is also another interesting one to talk about with style and stuff, just because its style is so inspired by takes hints from both Japanese anime and Western animation to really create this really unique blend in its look that really helps make it stand out beyond just being an amazing show in its own right.
Yeah, if you want like a very good like exciting, well-written story that is for like, it's basically for all ages essentially.
Yeah.
You know, and the story is very good. There's a very interesting world. The animation's great to look at. Like I don't even know if I can find faults in the like maybe some technical stuff they sort of skipped over, but there's very few flaws with that series. Like that was polished to an absolute shine.
I mean, it is important to note that, like, in a lot of cases, I mean, series-wise, there's a couple of different issues with series in general, and this is just with a lot of shows. Nothing's perfect. I love Avatar. It's by far one of my all-time favorite shows. That said, She-Ra's finale, I think, is stronger than Avatar's finale, and I will fight people on that because it was that good.
You ready to die on that mountaintop?
I am actually very much willing to die on that mountaintop.
I am willing to die on this mountain. Oh wait, is that the right quote? What is it? It's I'm ready to die on this hill. Or,
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
You're ready to fight for the death. That's the point.
Yeah, I am ready to, and I will have the high ground there, and so like I know I'll be fine.
Yes.
But like no, just as far as like I mean, Avatar I think is by far one of the closest things to a perfect show we got out there. It's just so well done. It has really great pacing and has one of the most interesting arcs of a character in the like. It has the by far all-time best redemption arc of any character, to the point where like any redemption arc that's done afterwards really to do it well takes note from Avatar. Such as what I like to call Zuko's super special field trip, super special time field trips.
Oh yeah,
which really just kind of set redemption arcs. Super special field trips, or it was like emotional field trips. They're just really good.
He did have a lot of those, I have to say. Zuko probably had like some of the most growth out of all the characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just super well done character, super interesting character, and does a lot to the story.
So I guess what we're saying is go watch it if you haven't.
Yeah, go watch it, and then also if you want to watch another good series, She-Ra is really good.
Plug.
The thing is, I've told it to my friends, like, while the first 2 seasons of She-Ra were not my favorite, like, the show continuously got better, to the point where at the end of season 4, I was already thinking, like, this is the, like, and I was right, because I knew myself at that point. I was like, oh, this is emotionally as meaningful to me as Avatar was to me when I was, like, 12. Mind you, this is also still, Avatar is definitely a more mature show than She-Ra was. That's what happens when you have a show that literally deals with genocide. But
oh really? Well, oh wait, yeah. That's true. I forgot about that.
Avatar did do that. That's the second episode, second or third episode of Avatar.
We've established I forget things.
Jeez, that's a pretty big thing to forget, Nick.
I don't get to pick.
That's fair.
What were we talking about? See?
Exactly. But like,
but yeah, there are definitely some dark parts to Avatar, but they do it in a very tasteful way, I will say.
Oh, very much so. It's, again, I watched it when I was 12 and I understood everything, and that's the thing I really like about like some really cartoons. I think that a lot of times, to their own detriment, cartoons, at least cartoons in the West, usually kind of treat children a little bit like they treat children as more fragile, and I like it when shows are like, no, we can deal with some difficult, children can deal with some difficult subject matter, such as war and loss, that Avatar does.
You just have to do it in a smart way. That's
exactly. And like, kids are smart. Kids are very intelligent, and they They realize
No,
when
they
things
are.
are
They are.
wrong.
I would say like probably they're just inexperienced. That's
Exactly.
that's not a fault of theirs. They're young. What do you want to do?
Sorry, you got me
So-
talking about Avatar. Now I'm just like thinking about all these.
I
different shows.
know. We're going down a spiral here.
Uh,
And I'm sure any young person watching this is like, oh my god, who are these old fogies? Just draw the stupid project.
Exactly. I just want to see the cartoon character move.
I know. I'm sorry, but when you get to our age, all you do is talk.
Yeah, this is true. I don't shut up.
What are you gonna do? We're back to the feet.
Yeah, that's what happens. We started with the feet now.
It's it starts with the feet and it ends with the feet.
Exactly. This one's annoying because of just the bend, but no, it shouldn't be too bad.
I do feel sorry for you know about Kingdom Hearts, right, Pat?
Yeah. Do I know about Kingdom Hearts? I couldn't tell you the story for the life of me because that is such a...
No. I'm not going that far. Kingdom Hearts was a video game series which I would love to play the first one again. Ooh, maybe I'll do that for a video game analysis thing.
I will... if you want to talk with me while you do that, I will gladly talk to you about Kingdom Hearts. It was one of my all-time favorite game series growing up, and still is.
All right, sure. Maybe we can do some more of that. I might do some... I have to get to Advent Rising first, which by the way, I haven't confirmed this, but I'm pretty sure it set the stage for a lot of space opera games like Mass Effect later, which is pretty interesting.
That's not a good game.
But yeah, good game. Circling back around to Kingdom Hearts, I do not know, so if you don't know anything about Kingdom Hearts,
you know just as much as the people who do know things about Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, there's a lot of time travel and
Nick, I've played every single one of those Kingdom Hearts games, including all the spin-offs, and I don't even know what the story is at this point. One of my friends said he only played the main trilogy, and he only got like 1/3 of the total story in the main games.
I'm not surprised. I watched a YouTuber and his buddy break down the entire series in 4 hours, and oh my god, does it get so confusing.
Yeah, as soon as Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, it was already down.
Oh yeah, it went off the rails. One I really loved because it was a very simple story and it was fun.
Yeah.
Had its faults, but the reason that it came up is you drew the shoe in a very particular way for a split second, and it just flared up that memory of the humongous clown shoes that Sora had. So I'm sure anyone can Google this, but Sora was the main protagonist from Kingdom Hearts, and I don't know why, but it was a style for these characters to have these ridiculously oversized shoes. They nixed it in the following ones, which I was honestly a little disappointed
Did they
about.
Nix it? I thought he always has oversized shoes.
But I think I can't remember. I think I was watching another YouTuber do an analysis of it, and he suspects that this was because they wanted to get a little bit more of Disney's feel into it, and because Mickey Mouse has big shoes, they wanted Sora to feel a little bit more like Mickey Mouse in some respects.
Well, yeah, they were trying to bridge the gap between Final Fantasy and Disney, and yeah, no, they did. That was the reason why they did the shoes and also the gloves. That's also why he has gloves to really.
Which I'm still okay with.
Yeah, I love gloves. I did talk about in the last one. Not sure if you watched this bit, but when I was talking about it, I talked about how gloves, why gloves existed in the old Mickey cartoons, as well as why a lot of old Hanna-Barbera cartoons had the characters wearing neckties.
Yeah. They animated it separately.
Yep. But the gloves were more just because Mickey is this completely black character, and so if he had black hands, whenever his hands were in front of him, they would not be able to see him.
Yeah.
So to be able to make him as expressive as possible, they gave him gloves.
Threw on some gloves. It's very interesting to see those creative solutions like that. I actually
Iwerks, man.
Say again?
Iwerks, the guy who animated the original Mickey Mouse, oftentimes forgotten because Disney was the better marketer, and Iwerks was just the animator. He was the guy who created Mickey Mouse, and so
Gotcha.
I always, whenever I talk about Mickey Mouse, feel the need to mention his name because
Bob Iger.
Iwerks. not Bob Iger.
What? Oh, I misheard you.
Yeah.
Which was Bob Iger?
Bob
then?
Iger is one of the guys who is currently in charge of Disney.
Got it. So, what was the name
don't
of the guy
like
who made
him.
Mickey
I like
Mouse?
Iwerks.
Say it again.
Iwerks.
Iwerks?
Yep. You will.
Okay.
There's a couple. I have to find. He's the guy who taught the 9 old men. Like that's him. He is the guy who. He's the guy who pretty much came up with
for the world of for the men.
Yeah.
7 for the dwarf lords.
He's the guy who pretty much came up with like how Disney animated down the line, and like he was amazing technical animator, and so super someone you should look into sometime because
Roger that.
There we go. Okay, so I'm already doing better than I did the last time I did this because I'm at 3 frames. I've done 3. I've done 2 drawings instead of the 1. Mind you, I was halfway through the second one when I did this one, so
Yeah.
1 second hurt.
Try not to think about it too much.
Yeah.
Whoever said animation isn't work has never done it.
Yeah, exactly. No, you just draw pictures, right? Yeah, you draw hundreds of pictures.
It's no big deal.
Yeah, like there's people. That's why I always laugh when I do drawings, do commissions, I do things like that. I love people who are like, yeah, no, I'll give $20 for a drawing. It's just a drawing, right? I'm like, I spend hours doing this.
It's like, why do you charge so much? I'm like, do you know how much work it goes into?
Yeah, I'm charging because I'm charging for all the years I spent building up these skills, and then also the time that I use working on these. So yeah, always fun to learn all this fun stuff.
All good. So coming back to the scarf idea and whatnot, I actually so when I was playing Advent Rising,
Okay.
I started taking note of all the characters that had face helmets on. So I'm just like, aha! No one has to animate the mouth moving.
Oh yeah, that is lovely.
Yeah. Mouths are kind of weird because they're very expressive.
Yeah.
Not to mention if you don't get synced with the dialogue, that's a whole other nightmare.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna go through these and just. Oh, close. Sorry, I'm just trying to.
No, I don't want to interrupt.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I just want to see.
Is that like your onion skinning range there?
So the onion skinning is the red and the green here.
Okay, gotcha.
And what I like about this one is, so let's say I went to this frame, I could instead of doing I can do the frame previously behind it, which is what I usually do. But I can also do instead the first frame, and it doesn't show all the frames. It just shows the frames you click on.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is very useful for very specific scenarios, but it is very useful for those scenarios. And I'm just seeing how. Oh, this is moving. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be quiet for a minute while you do your thing.
I'm just seeing how the movement looks. See if it. I feel like her eyes are getting bigger. I need to fix that. What were we talking about before this? Sorry.
You're asking me?
Yeah. Oh right, the bad
man.
Marie.
Yep. Let me see here. We were talking about loading.
Shira and the Princesses in Power? No.
No. We were not talking about that. We were talking about how you can hide stuff in animation, with scarves or
yes.
Yeah, Advent Rising's case with helmets or it's kind of interesting. They came up with a variety of helmets. Either it was a full-on space mask, or it was just a helmet with a face guard, so you can still see the eyes.
Yeah.
Or it was some other covering or whatever. So they did add variety to it to try and cover it up. But it's just I see what you did there.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's just stuff you don't necessarily think about, but it's definitely a good thing to keep in mind when you animate. If there's something that you can give a decent reason for why it should not be on screen, or come up with a clever way to avoid a little extra work, probably behooves you to do so.
All right. Yeah. No, almost definitely all the time. you do find ways to do little shortcuts. Not too many. You don't shortcut the actual look of it, but you try to find ways to make your life a little easier when you're doing 18 billion drawings.
Mm-hmm. Plus, the simpler you can make it, the easier it is to like analyze the shape and make sure you get things like the perspective right and all those other lovely things.
That's why a lot of times when they animate, they don't animate the whole scene. They animate sections of the scene. Each animator does a certain thing. Like some animators will do the characters, other ones will do objects in the scene, and usually the backgrounds are just paintings. They're not actually moving. And one of my favorite little tricks to do is if you ever watch any 2D animated movie or show even, see if you can spot before it happens the object that's going to be interacted with on the screen. And the way you can tell is it's slightly crisper than the rest of the objects because it was a cell and not a painting.
Mm-hmm. I definitely have seen that a number of times. I remember asking as a kid like why that was, like because you could kind of tell like, oh, that's got a slightly different shade, or it's just a little bit like drawn differently, and I don't know if it's because they were just coloring it differently, or like if one was like with the cell shading and one was like with a paintbrush, because I guess that would make sense that if you're gonna have a scene where the character like moves down an alleyway and you do like a pan or something, you probably want to do that with one whole painting and then just animate it like moving across.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what a show you should check out?
What's that?
Keep Your Hands Off Ezukin. It's an anime that came out this year. It's based on
Gesundheit. What did you say?
It's Keep Your Hands Off Ezukin. It's
Keep Your Hands Off Ezukin.
Yeah, Eizo. I can't remember how to spell it. It's easy to
All right.
find when you.
What's it about? Pitch it to me.
Okay, it's about a group of high school students, like a lot of anime, forming an animation club at the school to create cartoons. And it's so good. It's so beautiful about animation because they not only just talk about like talk about the cartoons that they're making and like all the choices they're making, but they also talk about the technical stuff in animation, how sound affects everything. And so every like 4 episodes there's a new animation that they make, and it has different aspects. Like in the first one they discuss shape, color, and like movement, and the second one they talk about sound and scale and how to really get impact into a scene. And like the last one is when they all put everything together to create this super big, like including music and things like that, to create this super big animation. And it was just such an interesting show to watch because it just you can tell about the amount of love that went into making the show, because they just went all out with how they talked about animation, and when they're creating the scenes, you see the characters going into the scenes, and oftentimes when they're just drawing out a scene, they will you see the characters like moving in, like the actual characters on this like sketchy background, putting the objects in the scene, but they'll use like their mouths for the sound effects, and then as the scene gets more finished, you'll hear like full sound effects come in, and it's a really cool. It's just a love letter to animation, and something I recommend for any animation nerd to watch because it's so much fun to watch.
Should you pop that name again? I'm actually gonna Google it.
Yeah. Here, let's. Here.
Oh, you're actually gonna put the text.
Why not? I have the ability.
We have the technology.
Keep your hands off.
Oh, it actually popped up. I got keep your, and it popped right up.
Right.
Keep your hands off Ezukin. Da, 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 da. Oh, is this on Crunchyroll?
It is on Crunchyroll.
Hey. All right. Well, I have that bookmarked for later.
It's super fun, and I do recommend it.
Very cool. I'm trying to think like what the last like anime thing that I watched. I'm trying to recall.
Me and my wife are doing a anime experiment where we watch the pilots of a bunch of shows just to compare them to each other, and it's really
nice.
really fun because you also see not only like the different styles of show type, but also different like different writing styles that they use, and also different animation styles, and it's just really fun to watch.
True. I one show that I rewatched not too long ago was Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh, I love Yu Yu Hakusho.
That was a great one. It is definitely very cool. It's kind of weird how that transitioned. There's nothing too spoilery. I won't go into what happens with it, but basically it's about this troublemaker that passes away after saving a kid from a car, and the spirit realm is like, hey, you did a good thing and you weren't supposed to go today, so that was unexpected. We're gonna give you a pass. They bring him back to life, and he basically becomes a spirit detective where he like hunts down like ghosts and apparitions and all this kind of stuff, and it's pretty cool. But later it definitely like loses that vibe a little bit, which was kind of a weird transition. Like he had like a bunch of gadgets and stuff, and had to like figure out how to like get around unique situations, and then eventually it just became a straight up like brawl, a little bit more Dragon Ball Z like.
I know it has one of the best.
It.
It has one of the best tournament arcs in an anime.
Oh, very true. So it definitely like lost that vibe a little bit, but you know what? I still enjoyed it. But I really enjoyed that anime back in my day.
Back when you were a young lad.
Yes, young lad of, when did I watch it? I want to say I was.
Yu Yu Hakusho came out in the late 90s, early 2000s.
I think I was in middle school, or just entered middle school. Yep, so that was a while. Back in my day. I'm actually just taking a closer look at keep your hands off what's his face? Ezuken. Is it Ezuken or Ezuken?
I do not know, and I'm sure there's a lot of people yelling at me for the pronunciation right now.
I'm just gonna go over to Crunchyroll.
Okay. We have been recording for a while now, Nick. I think we should probably call it soon.
Oh yeah. What time code are we at?
1 hour and 22 minutes.
Okay, yeah, we should wrap it.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it was taking that long. Just fun conversations. Yeah, we should.
Oh yeah, of course. All right, yeah. Why don't you take us out then?
Okay. Thank you for coming to watch, guys. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to our channel with the DAE, and also check out some of the classes that we offer at the Digital Arts Experience, such as 2D animation and 3D animation, which we teach. Here, I'm changing the frame, not the zoom.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, but feel free to check out some of our classes, as well as some other classes such as digital art classes and what other sorts of classes do we have, Nick?
Well, we already talked about animation. We've got programming, graphic design, photography, filming, and editing. If you could do it on a computer, we probably teach it.
That's for sure.
But yeah, needless to say, Pat, you're going to be back on Thursday mornings, if I remember your schedule correctly?
Yep.
All right, cool.
As you can tell, we did not record this on a Thursday morning.
No, I mean, what are you talking about? We totally recorded this. I mean, we did this live. 100%. No. Shh, Patrick, you're gonna ruin the illusion.
Sorry.
We will eventually transfer Patrick to live stuff, but schedule's got a little wonky. So we are monitoring it live. So if you have questions, we will answer it. But look forward to seeing this a little bit more live as we move forward.
I actually do watch mine live, so I can answer questions as well.
All right, cool. So with that all said, we're gonna wrap it up here. So let us know if you have any questions. You can always reach out to us if you have questions about classes. Our information is in the description below. And Pat, take us out.
Well, I hope you guys have a good night. Good day.
Day, yes. Good day. Good day.
It's
Bye,
morning
everyone.
now.